Uber creative creator James Gunn created this uber funny and uber cool take on superhero funny shows in the vein of shows like Greatest American Hero, The Tick, and even Harvey Birdman Attorney at Law. We are Cinema Gulp. It's Peacemaker, and this is Binge Drinking. So the show has officially been out for a couple of months now, so we figured here at Cinema Gulp, enough time has gone, enough of the holdover to check it out for people that are interested in it. So we are going to indulge into a spoiler discussion. I'm your host, Ben. On this Peacemaker episode of Binge Drinking, we've got returning Joanne.
Cheers.
And making his Cinema Gulp debut, my favorite person from back in film school, a stand-up comedian. It's the one and only. Wait, we can't say that. His name is Ben. My name is Ben too. So I guess he's Ben too. Ben, good to see you, sir.
Ben, there's an easier way to remember this, okay? You're Ben Jones. I'm Ben Stockton. I'm full of BS, and you just make me want to BJ.
You know, from when we used to hang out, I know you were a comic book guy, but I think you maybe moved on a little bit from that. Maybe not moved on, but tapered it down a bit. Didn't you tell me something like that?
Yeah, actually, it's funny you bring that up. I was going through my comics today. So I have a collection of like 5,000 comic books. I've been collecting since like kindergarten.
Yeah.
And I'm at a point where, much like most of the DC cinematic universe, it's worthless. So I'm getting rid of them. You know, I think a part of me will always love Batman.
Yeah. Cheers to that. Is that the 60s show, or is that?
Oh, yeah. Well, totally Adam West, man.
It's kind of Adam West, right?
Yeah,
well, the outfit's a little bit more hardcore, but
yeah, totally, man. He's got, you know what it is? He's got Adam West's thunder thighs, man. That's from doing the Bat 2C all the time.
Yeah, he's got the eyeballs too, man.
Yeah, right, yeah.
We all re-binged Peacemaker. I just finished for the second time episode 8 last night. Overall thoughts. I want to start with Ben.
Yeah, man. I loved it. I think it has a great story, a great cast, and the music is awesome. And I gotta point out, I think James Gunn did something that hasn't been done in a very long time, which was make weekly must-see TV. It hasn't really existed since binging became a thing. And in a weird way, while I'm not the biggest fan of streaming services going to weekly releases, it works sometimes better for shows, and Peacemaker is definitely one of those shows better for it.
100%, because every episode felt like its own episode, right? Like when you stretch them out and you let them just all come out at once, it all just becomes a big mesh of one thing. And Peacemaker had those individual episodes.
Well, so, you know, I was not familiar with the character at all before this. I mainly watched it because it was John Cena. And as you know, Ben, I'm pretty much a lifelong wrestling fan.
Yeah.
So he was the main attraction for me, and not for obvious reasons, but just, you know, because I'm into wrestling. So that was like 90% of the reason that I was wanting to watch it. The other 10% was just like friends and people telling me how funny it was. So I was really, really curious about it. I had seen John Cena in other funny roles before, as I'm sure you all have.
Okay, all right.
3.
Yep.
Okay, 1.
Oh!
And he's just awesome. He's awesome with improving lines and everything too. Great delivery of everything. Plus he's not bad to look at either. There's also another topic that I want to bring up later that this show actually kind of changed my life.
Oh my goodness.
So I will let you know about that later.
We'll have to try to beat that. The one thing I can say about the show when I talk about overall thoughts is, and I posted this to Twitter on the first episode after I finished it, is like the intro musical dance number of the show prepares you for exactly what you're going to watch. You know, like hijinks, doesn't take itself serious. It's crazy. But I love the intentional sloppiness of the show and the characters. I mean, episode 2 is literally just them trying to get Peacemaker out of an apartment building after he bangs a chick. Like, I've already said this to both of you. It's the only show that I can, even think about in recent memory that I didn't skip the intro. Every time I have to watch it because it just it's like brilliant. I mean, obviously the song has a lot to do with it, but it's kind of brilliant, right?
I watched an interview with James Gunn where he said the whole plan from the beginning was to make it so you didn't want to skip that intro. And, you know, it being a weekly show helped with that a lot. But there's so much going on in that intro. It's like you can notice a little move from one character that you didn't notice before because you were focusing on another one. And it just hits differently every time you watch it because of what's happening in the show as you watch.
Yeah, there's so many characters doing so many different things, and they bring in like extras who are only in like 1 or 2 episodes, and you're like, who is that person? And then the person even shows up later that hasn't even been in it yet.
I also have like a dance background, you know. I used to take dance class, and like, you know, I'm into choreography and watching dance shows, you know, so you think you can dance and all that. So I appreciated the choreography that people were doing. I mean, it wasn't anything difficult, but I mean, still, like it was something to appreciate that these are just, you know, probably non-dancers doing it.
The musical intro is a song called Do You Want to Taste It by a band called Wigwam.
Yeah.
And I want to ask...
band. Yeah.
Norwegian band, yes. Okay, Ben, I feel like you already know where this is going. Joan, roughly what year do you think that song came out in the intro?
Let's just say 1985.
1985, that's a great guess. It was 2010.
Okay.
Ben, you knew that, right?
Yeah.
So Wigwam is from Norway, and just all the Nordic countries have this just huge metal scene, and it's black metal, it's death metal, and it's hair metal apparently, which I didn't even know. So I found that kind of amazing, and I think that's really speaks to how good James Gunn is with fusing music into his work.
Oh, he's so good. Yeah.
Yeah. So what he did was he found a song that were like, oh, I know that one. Heard that one a million times growing up, and you never heard it. And now it's a new song you love. But it felt so 80s, and everything they were going for. It was the perfect song.
While we're talking about Wigwam, did you know that they actually had gotten dropped by their label 3 days before this song premiered on this show and went viral and blew up the world because people loved it so much with the intro of the show that it's just ingrained into people's heads. They just got dropped. Wow, they're hopefully they're laughing now, but who knows?
All the way to the bank, baby. I thought I knew the lyrics, and then when I actually read them, they don't make any sense. And I honestly think the song's about taking acid. You know, it says, you know, like you put it on your tongue to taste it. And then like there's a couple weird lines that stuck out to me. One is like there's a mention of like you ride on a flying thing, right? Now in my head I had that as flying machine, but the line is actually thing. Like you're so tripped out, you're flying on something, you don't know what it is. You know? And then I have no clue what give your dog an invisible bone is. Like everyone knows that line. What the fuck does that even mean?
I thought it was invisible boy. It's invisible bone.
No, it is invisible bone, yeah. But hey, Ben, let me ask you something. If it was invisible boy, why does that make more sense?
It doesn't. Tone and story of the show, like the plot is secondary. Most of the episodes, not a lot happens. I'm sure we can all agree. I mean, a lot happens, but a lot doesn't happen. It's a fairly simple story. The tone can appear all over the place, but I kind of like that. Like, I don't mind shows that first and foremost want to be entertaining, comedic, and you know, some crazy action stunts like that, but they dip into darker, more dramatic themes. And this show kind of does that in certain points. And I know I've heard some criticism about that it throws people off. I kind of like it that it does that.
I thought the tone in the theme of the show was great. You know, like I think the comedy and the actions, like they're very obvious, they're at the forefront of the show. But when I like think about what I saw, I felt like the season was really about like finding purpose and discovering who you really are, and also like not letting your past chain you down. So like all the characters on the team, they are like either rejecting this family they came from, whether that's, you know, Nazis, you know, government black op moms, or your alien race that wants to take over, you know, a planet. they're rejecting it. And then you got the other half of the team where one's learning to trust, the other's learning to believe in himself. And then there's like Vigilante, who finds out how quickly he can shoot an entire family with a sniper rifle. Most of them like learned lessons and grew, and I thought that was pretty great.
Hard to follow that, but
yeah, that was kind of perfect. Yeah.
In your face, Joe. Victory, Rip.
Yeah, at first I didn't really know what the tone was going to be like. You know, to be quite honest, I sort of spaced out on the plot at the beginning. Like it wasn't really grabbing me at the beginning.
It didn't really matter. Oh, you're married? I'm into old-fashioned stuff too, like Humble Figurines and Capital Punishment and Garbage Pail Kids and stuff like that. Who said that? Peacemaker said that.
I was gonna guess that.
I was like, it can't be Peacemaker.
It's just a perfect quote to tell you who he is, like right away. And it happens early when the team first is like driving in a car together. He's tragic, but like strangely uplifting of a character. Like, I don't know if you guys agree with me on that. Like, but well, I think Ben does, because Ben just said it so eloquently. But his arc in the show is like a holdover from like the actions and the wrongdoings of what he did in the Suicide Squad film. And he deals with that in the show. And it's interesting in the time that we live in that a TV show can like kind of spill over from a movie and like deal with the aftermath of what a character did from that theatrical movie, you know? So I find him fascinating as a character. And that's one of the reasons I really wanted to watch this show, because when you watch the Suicide Squad, spoilers, like you think he's dead, you know? And then obviously they give you some like throwaway line in 2 seconds of him in a hospital and he wakes up and it's like it never happens.
I'll tell you this, actually. I was not excited for this show. Like, before I started watching it, I didn't give a shit. I didn't think I'd like it because I didn't see how they could redeem him.
A lot of people said that, yeah.
It was like I was stranded in the middle of nowhere and he traded in my giant dog van and pulled up on a mini bike and completely redeemed himself.
And totally redeem yourself.
He has to assassinate what is essentially a family. He doesn't know yet that they're actually like possessed by alien butterflies. And he can't do it. And you know, thankfully Vigilante's there and he's nuts. And there was a worse way to handle that, and they handled it well. And I don't remember exactly if this footage was in or around that scene, but he has flashbacks to Rick Flag. Like Rick Flag's like kind of the first person he regretted killing.
Yeah, you're a joke. What a joke. Yeah.
And if he kills these two kids, just two more people he'll actually regret killing. He's starting to regret what he's done. And I think it was a really genuine transition the show did.
Yeah. He was basically the Rick Flag without the moral compass.
Yes.
In the movie, you know. The scene I don't like involving Peacemaker, and that's like, I don't know about you, Ben, but it feels like it's 10 minutes long. And that's Peacemaker dancing in his underwear to like
No, it's perfect. It's perfect.
But I realized that scene was not made for me. It was made for Joanne. So I'm okay with that.
No. You are totally wrong about this. What do you think about that scene, Joanne? I love that scene. I think it's great.
No, I do too. But.
Yeah, I think we all love it, whether we want to admit it or not.
Love it. Shots fired.
No, I mean, he's amazing. It just shows to me how he's like, I think he's like one of those guys who has, you know, he's a very good looking guy, you know, with like perfect body, basically, if you're into buff guys, right? But he's still, I don't feel like he's conceited. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like he's willing to do things that are just silly or funny or just stupid looking.
Are we talking about Peacemaker or John Cena?
I'm talking about John Cena.
Okay. I've been waiting this whole time to talk about my favorite character on the show, Eagley. And Eagley is my favorite character on the show, possibly my favorite thing that's ever been created. I love Eagley so much. It's like the best thing of all time. It's a wonderful render, absolutely Gollum level fucking realism with this bird, because they keep it very tight with shots and stuff like that. But I feel that Eagley's there. Yeah, there's goofy shots where they have their slow motion team walk out, and it's so great when Eagley's also walking with the team, and, and he's bouncing. But I mean, even like the hugs, like just the facial expressions when he's looking at people talking. Like I love Eagley. Well, obviously, Joanne, you like Eagley because you have an owl right there.
This owl is a huge fan of Eagley, and I can't believe you just implied that Eagley doesn't really exist.
I know, it's a bummer.
Aside from just the jokes, Eagley is the other thing that got me really roped into the show. That hug that happens at the beginning is just like it's touching and warming. Like
hug
you
in
feel
episode 8. The hugging episode.
Yeah.
Talk about like redemption. That's he's one of your pieces to redeeming Peacemakers because his love for this bird.
Yeah, you're right.
It's never mentioned, I don't think, in the movie.
I loved Eagley, and you're right, Ben. He looks so realistic, and he actually I think he has the best comedic timing of the show.
100%.
Yeah, Eagley is just so funny in the things he does.
Oh shit, Eagley's hardcore, man.
And I think I especially love the name because it really highlights how like Peacemaker isn't that bright or like an original of a guy. Like I fell in love with Eagley episode 1 the moment he hugged Peacemaker. Okay, because I think it fed into like this fantasy like almost all of us had as kids where we wanted like a dangerous animal that acted like a dog. But was smart enough to play pranks. It was like Clifford the dog and Denver the Last Dinosaur and Alf because he ate cats. So,
do you want to talk about Vigilante? Because I know how much Joanne likes Vigilante. He's kind of the opposite way of Eagley, where Eagley isn't trying to steal scenes. He just naturally does. Vigilante is a great character because he wants to just be involved.
He's just hilarious. So the first time he made me laugh uncontrollably was when he kept on changing his facial expressions, and they were like, "Why are you doing that?" He's like, "If I keep doing that, you guys won't be able to pick me out of a lineup." But he had so many funny lines throughout the show.
If you're going to be sarcastic, you should really warn people so there's no confusion.
What?
Kind of remind me of George Costanza. It's like I agree with a lot of those things. I'm nothing like those people, hopefully, but I agree with a lot of what they say, and that's part of what is really funny to me.
Oh my God, knowing that Freddie Stroma, the guy that played Vigilante, came in to replace the original actor for more than fucking half of the shooting. That's amazing because he's so fucking good. I mean, obviously, all the stuff under the mask is second unit shit. They do that stuff somewhere else. But when he's delivering his lines and his helmet is off and stuff like that, they had to hurry him through this process and like get him up to speed and in sync with the rest of the cast who'd been shooting for fucking months before he even got there. So that must have been really hard. And he's so great, and he's just such a fucked up.
So Daniel Brooke as Adebayo is awesome. I really enjoyed her in Orange is the New Black. I think she really stood out. She's almost a lead, practically.
I love her.
She's a lead. Yeah, she's great in the show. Her story is so great, and they have a lot in common, her and Peacemaker, obviously, where they're just both trying to like get away from the shadow of their parents. And I think she shows a lot of depth and range when dealing with that aspect of the show very much. And then just funny and a delight to see on screen.
I would say she's the second lead.
That's a good term. Yeah. Second lead.
She's the second lead for sure. And she's kind of the catalyst of the show, where you kind of see what's going on through her eyes almost as much as you see him through Peacemaker. Like Peacemaker is our main character, he's our protagonist, but Adebayo is the audience, sort of. I mean, the closest thing there is to a character that would represent the audience, I guess, right? Like someone who's entering this world and doesn't know what's going on and stuff. So
a good place for me to tell you how the show actually changed my life.
Oh, fuck yeah. Hell
yeah. So, this sounds big, but it's not really that big. But it is for me. Berenstain Bears, not Berenstein Bears. This was huge for me. You don't know how much research I put into this after watching that. I totally thought it was Berenstein, E-I-N, Bears, and I had, memories in my head of seeing it written that way on the book in the library, and I couldn't believe it, and I talked to 2 friends about it, and it's funny because I first did research on it, and then it said the first article I read satisfied me. It said, well, no, it was always Berenstain, of course, but there were some knockoff books that said Berenstein, so I was happy with that explanation. I was like, okay, I must have had a knockoff.
It's Berenstain Bears.
What?
You don't mind me saying this, but if anyone else watching this thought it was Berenstein Bears, please make a comment in the comments.
I always thought it was. I always thought it was Berenstein
Did
Bears.
you? Okay, yeah. And I would like to email you and talk to you about
Well, it's
it.
like the Frankenstein. Cheers, Joanne. Cheers. Glad you did. Where's
Thank
Batman?
you.
Where's Batman? Where's the Batman?
No.
Economist.
Yeah,
I love
Economist.
Economist is
he's
one of the
fun.
funniest characters for sure because he's the everyman.
I've modeled my whole life off of him.
I love that, like, in the final battle, he just like breaks his ankle. That's me right there. I just would break my ankle for no fucking reason and be completely taken out of the battle just because I tripped over a fucking like fire hydrant or something. And like, I love that he's like, what the fuck?
Oh my god!
Hardcore is okay, I guess. I mean, there's not much to her. I love Jennifer Holland. That's actually James Gunn's wife that plays Hardcore. I don't know if you guys knew that. I think she's actually a really good actress. They just don't really give her much to do on this show because that's her character. She has a great cry scene when Myrn dies because it's not only that it's somebody that she trusts is dead. It's also that she doesn't know where the mission's going to go now. And obviously she doesn't trust Peacemaker to like lead the team, nor should he lead the team, but I hope they give her more to do next season.
Yeah. With a lot of the characters, they did a really great job of making them dynamic and grow throughout the series. But not so much for Hardcore, and I feel like part of that's because they all still need to fit in. Like, you have the computer guy in Economist, you have the rookie in Abadayo, you have the wild card in Vigilante, so on and so forth. You got tough as nails Lady Cop in Hardcore, and like
that always gets the shit end of the stick. Yeah,
and like I guess character archetypes are like necessary for this kind of show, and I feel like to spend more time on Hardcore is to take away from the things you love most about the season. Yeah, next season, I think they're going to do a ton with her. She clearly has a lot of stuff going on.
She does. And we don't know any of it. We don't know any
Yeah.
of it. Obviously, Myrn, he's so fucking interesting, and it was such a wasted opportunity. I mean, I get it for the context of the quote-unquote plot, but I really didn't want that character to die this season. I just didn't think we learned enough. We got some throwaway lines that he was part of another faction of the Butterflies, but I needed more. I didn't want him to die. Maybe kidnap him and not have him get rescued this season. I don't know.
Did you guys predict that he was a butterfly? And if so, how early on?
I wasn't surprised when the tongue came out, though. But
right.
Yeah. I knew I had it. I kind of figured it sometime before the reveal, but it wasn't too long. I at one point I was like, oh man, I can't believe I didn't think of that.
Detective Song and Detective Fitzbargon or whatever his name is, Fitzbonbon. I don't know how you pronounce his last name. I have a huge crush on the actors that played Detective Song. But aside from that, I'm not sure really how I feel about the fact that they created these two characters. They let us know stuff about their lives. I mean, we visit Detective Song's uncle, who is like a judge, and we're getting to know the relationship between these two. And like, you almost feel like that's going to become this kind of outlier thing where they're after, you see this so many times in movies. They're after the guy because they think he's the bad guy, but then they eventually end up teaming up with him because they realize there's a bigger threat. And I respect that didn't happen in this show, but I'm also kind of bummed about that because it seemed like there was a lot of wasted potential and wasted character growth that ended up going nowhere, because as soon as they turn into butterfly aliens, they're already dead. And then, yeah, the actors get to keep getting paid because they're still playing roles on the show, but they're no longer the characters that we were meeting and learning from. Like, I don't know. I have a weird time about the detectives. Maybe that's why they're in the very back row of the dance number at the beginning.
Well, yeah, I was actually surprised when the butterfly got her. You know, I actually was. So that's kind of cool that by then I was enough into the story to where I cared about what was going on more, and I was like, oh wow, it actually happened.
Yeah,
So,
I think that's when you finally realize that when they take you over, they kill you.
mm-hmm, yeah,
Because it's
yeah, you're
very
no longer
violent.
you.
I mean, it's violent.
It is.
Fuck, when that thing's like ripping like your vocal cords out or whatever.
Yeah.
I think James Gunn is good about this overall. The thing he does really well in this show is make these characters real people. Okay, for example, like Peacemaker's dad's a Nazi, and he made his sons fight till one was dead.
Oh,
and
that's
brutal and horrible. And his father's a horrible human being, but still Peacemaker wants to try and have a relationship with his father, and until the last possible second, just tries not to do what needs to be done. Relationships with parents are complicated, right? And we don't always get closure, right? With things. And I think that show kind of handles that in a sense. So like Myrn dies, right? And I also really liked Myrn. I want to learn more about Myrn, but let's be honest, somebody on the team had to die.
For sure. And he was the obvious one.
Yeah, he was kind of the obvious pick, right? But then you have the cops, and I did not see that coming with the cops. It bummed me out. Yeah. I even like the weird double agent sheriff guy who was just like
super weird. The
weird.
actor acted no different when he was a butterfly than when he was a human.
I know. And yeah, we're learning about them. We care about these characters. And then I thought they were going to totally team up with Peace and the Makers or whatever the Scooby gang's going by. That's real life. Like good guys die, and they become alien. Ubers.
When I look back on it, it's actually really good storytelling that you did get the audience to care about these people, because otherwise you would have just been waiting. If they were just cops who didn't have these traits, you'd just be waiting for them to be killed or taken over by the butterflies. But instead, they have a lot of investment in things, and they're good people. And I like that line where she becomes a butterfly and she looks at the partner who's not yet a butterfly, and she goes, I think she was very fond of you. I can tell she was very fond of you. And I love that line because that gave you that humanity of the detective, the hard-edged detective woman, that she really did like her partner. And then, of course, he dies in the next scene and becomes one, too. I just want to say something about Robert Patrick real quick. Like, he is just a national treasure. That guy he's played despicable guys. He's obviously played good guys. He played the one guy that kicked the shit out of Arnold in T2. But he just has no fear of as an actor. And, like, he'll take on any role, no matter how despicable the character is. And we need character actors like that because someone needs to be that guy, you know? And from what I've read and seen, he's just like the nicest guy in the world. So clearly he's a good actor, because it's always like it's a thankless job to play a guy that says, I wish I had slit my son's throat at birth.
He's a very dedicated actor. He takes his craft very seriously, which you should if you're going to play that kind of character. Like, it's, you can't joke about it, even if you're in a comic book show.
The only thing I have to say about Judo Master is I love Flaming Hot Cheetos too. I love that guy. There are some jokes in this show that don't land. And I'm sure when you did your rewatch, some of them stick out and some of them are just like, maybe you just didn't even notice. But it's like, Eat My Dick Schwarzenegger made my skin crawl. It sounds like a writer wrote that and they laughed him out of the room.
Oh, yeah.
His father was in charge, so they kept it.
Like, I feel like the show would not have hurt the show a little bit more. Was maybe some more action scenes, which is weird saying because it's a pretty action-packed show in my opinion. But well, here's what it is: they're so good, they just stand out and they stick with you.
They're not high octane. They're not like up in planes and on top of cars. They're very ground level. Yeah, punching and shooting faces.
Yeah,
and stuff.
I thought the stuff with Judo Master and Peacemaker was awesome.
Fuck you! Fuck you, fucker!
That would be like like Ben, if you were walking and then a squirrel attacked you and you could not take that squirrel on, man.
You cocksucker!
I loved when The Rock started to get into action movies because he was such an excellent wrestler. You can do really interesting things with a guy that size that you maybe haven't seen in other action films, especially if you pair him up against different body types and different styles and what have you.
John Cena is like an inflatable fucking, he's like you're pumping up a fucking tire. Him as like an action guy, like he really just like runs towards you and tackles you or punches you. When he's got like Judo Master and he's able to slam him down on the car, it's like that's the way he's gonna win that fight. But if they're away from each other, he's not gonna win.
What I'd like to see next season is like a 10-minute fight between Judo Master and Peacemaker. Like think They Live. You remember that scene from They Live with Roddy Piper and Keith David, man. That scene is amazing. And I think a fight scene of that like caliber is very much in the potential of this show.
I want to see some new characters join the team. I also want to see, who the fuck doesn't want to see what Ben just said? Like at 15, fuck it, a whole episode.
Oh,
an entire episode of a fight scene with Judo Master, and maybe even bring in Vigilante, because Vigilante is a fucking badass. Like that's one thing we didn't really talk about. That end scene where he finally pulls out the sword. He's fucking jacking motherfuckers in that scene.
You know, maybe just thicken the plot a bit, get me more involved in the storyline, and you know, it can go anywhere. Second way that this show actually changed my life is I became a big Foxy Shazam fan after this. So Welcome to the Church of Rock and Roll was I think it was in episode 1 or 2 maybe, but that just grabbed me, and then I no pun intended, I Shazammed it to see who it was, and then I can't believe I didn't know much about that band before, and I started watching all kinds of videos. So actually, another thing I'm looking forward to for season 2 is more cool music.
Yeah, I agree. That's a good one, Joe. Yeah, because the music really kind of is the heart and the soul of like the way you feel about the show.
A little bit. There's no wrong time to rock, motherfucker.
There's no wrong time to rock, and I completely agree. And that's kind of what the show is, right there. You know, it's like it's that music, it's that attitude. Fuck you! Fuck them and fuck the world. It just has that I don't give a fuck attitude, which, you know, I'm a real big fan of. So like, yeah, bring it on. Next year, all I really want in season 2 is just keep not giving a fuck. Fuck you!
Thank God James Gunn's steering the boat right now, because he is probably one of the few directors working right now who has the experience and history and confidence to do that with this show. And you know, as long as he doesn't give Peacemaker over to Aquaman 2, I think it's going to be okay. The cameos only work one way is what I'm trying to say. They don't work the other way.
There's 2 James Gunn brothers. So is this controversial to say, in Guns We Trust? Is that a bad thing to say in this day and age? Thank you, everybody, for watching this episode of Binge Drinking on Peacemaker, not the Peacemaker, sans the. Joanne, thank you once again for showing up on Binge Drinking. I hope you got a nice buzz going, and Owly looks to be a nice friend of Eagley. And everyone, you can find Ben Stockton, my boy from film school, on Facebook, link below. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. We drink your cinema.
Clap your hands, everybody, and everybody clap your hands. We lambda, 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 and oh, make a move.